Overthinking, the most double-edged sword in the human mind. I think I self-identify as a big overthinker, with everyday stuff from things like homework to really philosophical things like, religion and death. And I think for me, it really does have good and bad impacts on, my life, my mental well-being, etc. Like, I think the good impacts of overthinking is you when it comes to make a choice, you kind of find the best option, or sometimes though it does come to bite you and then you find an option you feel comfortable with after, maybe not taking a risk or whatever else. And I do think that it is bad and good in both ways. I think overthinking kind of gets a negative connotation, which to a degree it does deserve. Like, for example, in my life, say I want to, ask out a girl, say I want to, ask a parent something, I overthink about it a lot. Like, I'll be thinking, what can happen here, what can happen there, kind of playing out every single scenario in my head of what could happen this, what could happen that, when I think I just need to go ahead and do it. Like, I do feel like I've wasted so much time thinking of, what an outcome could be instead of kind of just going to do something, figuring out the outcome as it is. But then again, it does help with some things. Like, I've, tried to get out of my comfort zone, tried to stop overthinking and, forced myself to kind of do things on impulse or on my first choice. And that's kind of also shot me in the back a little bit in some situations, in school, with friends, with girls, whatever else. Like, acting on impulse isn't all good either. I feel like to get the best outcome, in general, in life, in situations, I think you kind of have to find a happy medium between impulse and overthinking. Like, you don't want to, take your first option and just run with it no matter what, or take your first choice and run with it no matter what. But you also don't want to spend, 3 hours thinking, okay, what could happen if I say this? What could happen if I say that? I think the better option is to kind of come in between and, find your best choice there. Also, though, with overthinking, a lot of times you can talk yourself out of doing something that otherwise you should have or would have done. Like, I think I've talked myself out of talking to friends, making new connections, talking to girls, trying to start conversations with strangers so many times by being like, what if they're weird about it? What if they don't, accept you? Like, what if they don't want to talk? Like, whatever else. And I think that in those situations, acting on impulse is the better thing so that you can, create social connections and instead of overthinking about it, just kind of just do it. I think the thinker I am has kind of got me to the place I am today, kind of confused, lost, unhappy with how my life is going so far. And, only a teenager, I'm young, but I think that I've talked to a lot of other people and they haven't thought nearly as deeply about anything as I have, or I think as much about anything as I have, like regarding life, God, death, things like that, more serious topics. I think everybody's mostly just concerned about, their everyday life instead, which is fine. And I genuinely think that that's where I kind of need to get to, thinking about my everyday life, instead of being like, what's going on a year from now, what's going on even a month from now. I think I kind of need to start to take things day by day. And I have started doing that with some things in my life. And I feel like it has been pretty beneficial to just kind of be like, okay, I just got to get through today. I just got to get through today. Tomorrow is, the future myself's problem. But I also do think that you should treat your future self as kind of a friend or maybe even a brother. Like, you don't want to delay things so bad that your future self is going to have a million assignments, or your future self's going to be in a bad situation because your current self was selfish and didn't feel like doing something or didn't feel like making a connection, etc. So then your future self is kind of just fucked. And I think it can be really hard to kind of balance the things like living in the present while also putting, a certain percentage of yourself in the future because of, what I just said. Like, you don't want to set yourself up for failure. I think you always want to set yourself up for success. But, in my opinion, through the way that I've been living life lately, I think I need to change things in my life. I think I've been too focused on the future, too focused on, what I'm gonna do, that I kind of just need to take a backseat and, take it day by day, week by week at most. Like, for example, there was a girl I was talking to earlier this year, right? She was cool, whatever, like, she was really fucking with me too. But I kind of just didn't want to pursue anything at that time with her. So, we stopped talking, whatever. And, I was thinking I was spinning the block because she's cool. Like, she looked good. She got good personality. And then, I was chopping it up with my homie, and apparently he's talking to her now, unbeknownst to knowing that I was going to spin the block on her. So, I think I kind of just got to be like, I started getting in my head about that, like what I should do, what I should do this, do that. And I was like, nah, bro, just take it day by day, see how you feel. If you want to hit it back up, do it. But, the risk you could have with your homie, like, I don't know, man. And, I know bro code. Like, he's not my best friend, you know what I'm saying? Not a brother to me. We cool. He's a homie, but he's not, we not that close. Just to add a little disclaimer, I ain't gonna steal my friend's girl if he got her first. My best friend's girl, my brother's girl. But, back to overthinking, though. I think that I'd actually started to overthink a little bit there, in between clips, because I was like, damn, what am I truly going to do with the situation? I was like, bro, you making a video on that you're overthinking too much and you need to kind of stop it. And I was like, just stop thinking right there, go back to recording, whatever. And I think that that's most beneficial. When you catch yourself overthinking, I think you kind of just have to be like, all right, you know what? We're not going to worry about that right now, especially if it's not even going on right now. We're going to worry about what's right in front of us, and we'll let the future kind of unravel and kind of handle itself. And to add on to that, I feel like when you overthink a lot, or when you get really in your thinking, when you start deep thinking, or when you start future thinking about stuff that's, not even close to related to the issues of today, it creates strain on your mind. So you get tired when you're not even really doing nothing that's going to help you. You just thinking, it creates strain on your mind, it creates stress, going to raise your cortisol, when, that's not, you don't need to be worrying about that. I think you got to allocate all of your energy to today's and maybe even tomorrow's situations instead of, 2 years from now situations. Like, the version of you that'll deal with that might handle it so differently that what you're thinking about right now might not even be relevant to the situation. But as a little conclusion to this, I think really anything in moderation is fine. Anything in moderation is good to an extent. Like, if you're a deep thinker, if you're an overthinker, it's fine to think to the future sometimes, but always remember to catch yourself when you're doing too much. And you'll know when you're doing too much. Make sure to catch yourself and just kind of don't let it overtake you. That's going to be it, though, for the video. Stay true and peace out.